All right, ladies, thank you for joining me. And you're both part of the Mokena Women's Club. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And Lana, is that right? You're the president at the
I
time
am. I'm
currently?
brand new.
Brand new
Brand new
president.
president. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
And Joann, tell me about your involvement, your role in the club.
Well, because I've been in the club the longest, I guess, I'm the unofficial historian.
Oh, very cool.
hmm So I've been in it, believe it or not, 51 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you the longest standing
Yes.
member in the club?
The longest living one. Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then tell us a little bit about how the club came about.
Sure. I think the thing that is interesting about Mokena Women's Club is 20 ladies got together in January of, actually had their first meeting in March of 1960, and it appears their goal was to start a kindergarten, because at that point there were no public kindergartens. So their goal was to open a private kindergarten, and between January and August they did that.
Wow.
And they operated the only kindergarten in Mokena for 7 years.
Really?
Mhm. The interesting part is its name. It was called Happy Hour Kindergarten. I don't think we'd get away with that today.
That's funny.
The Happy Hour, right. Yeah.
The innocent names. Yeah, yeah. Totally different meaning now. So it started in the 60s, and do you know anything about some of the founding women and why they
I
came together to
do.
do
I
it?
have a few names that you'll recognize.
Okay.
Elizabeth Koppel,
Sure.
Lydia Cole, Florence Pittman, Mabel and Ruth Welsh, Gladys Needham, and Marguerite Scarth are some of the 20. Unfortunately, only one of them is still alive today, but we had her as a speaker, Dolores Behrens,
Oh,
and
wow.
she lives in New Lenox now.
Do you
But
know how old she is now?
she must be in her late 80s.
Okay.
I'm not sure she's reached 90. But, you know, these ladies were leaders in the community. And when you think about it, in 1960, women didn't usually go out at night. And these women started this group. They got a charter from the General Federation of Women's Clubs, which at that point their charter came out of Chicago. So we're affiliated to this day, all these years later, with the General Federation, which is one of the largest international women's volunteer organizations.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the kind of goal or mission of the General Federation of Women?
Well, I believe it was founded in order to help establish libraries throughout the country.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wow.
the Mokena Women's Club was instrumental in the Mokena Library Foundation and helping them to get started and so on as well.
Oh, that's interesting. So I'm a big part of the Lions Club, and one of the things I like to point out is the Lions paid the rent for a long time too for the library,
Cool.
and started buying books and as well. So,
Ah.
and it's interesting. I looked up newspaper articles and that, and through the years, the Lions Club and the Women's Club have worked together on
Yes.
a lot of things
Yes,
to the
we have.
community,
We have.
which is great.
Definitely.
You know, it's always great to see those organizations working together.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the things you've been involved with in your time in the club?
Wow. Well, I think the first 5, 6, 7 years I was in the club, we kept wanting to give more money back to the community, but we didn't know how to earn that money. So we would sell candy, we would sell flowers, we would sell wrapping paper, gift cards. Every month you took your money and you went to the club and you knew you were going to come home with something. We said, this is silly, we need to come up with a good idea. And so we formed a committee, which we're really good at forming committees. So we formed a committee to study it, and we decided we wanted a project that we would only have to deal with once a year instead of monthly things. And at that point in time, the idea of an art and craft fair was totally brand new. Lockport Women's Club had one. They were in their second year. And a member, Doris Sangmeister, and I went to the Lockport Club and asked them if they would be offended or if they would embrace our having a similar show in Mokena. And they said, go for it. And so They have one too, and theirs is 2 years older than ours. We're on our 49th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got this thing figured out now.
I hope so.
Well, talk about that. I was really interested that you are strictly handmade,
Yes.
handcrafted
Correct.
goods. So what brought that along, and talk a little bit about the bazaar.
Well, part of the issue was that we were going to charge admission to the show, which was going to be our profit for doing so. And that was a new concept. People were used to going to church bazaars and going places where they paid nothing to get in and they would shop. So the concept was a brand new one, and we spent years convincing people the admission price will help the community. So we don't refer to ourselves as a bazaar. We're an art and craft show. We're semi-juried, which means that everyone who applies has to send us photos of their merchandise that they are making in the stages as it's being made.
That's got to be quite a process to manage all of that information coming in. Like, how many vendors are typically at the fair?
Ooh, we have, how many spaces?
We have 120.
At least 120 spaces, but an exhibitor or crafter could buy more than one,
Okay.
rent more than one. And we're in the field house at Lincoln Way East, but our first show was at Willowcrest School, and it was a very small show, and we were only there 1 year because we knew it was going to work for us, and we moved to Lincoln Way North, which was on the central campus. When Lincoln Way North, the original Lincoln Way North was the north end of the central campus.
Okay.
Okay, and we were there for 4 years, and then parking was an issue because we grew in attendance. So we moved to Lincoln Way East, and they put us in the gym. I think we were in the gym about 7 years when they came to us and asked us to move into Fieldhouse. Because they had a scheduling conflict, which really worked to our advantage. Not necessarily that first year because we didn't have enough time to fill with exhibitors, but ever since we've been able to.
Wow.
Mhm.
And what does that do for your club? That's your only
That's our
fundraiser,
only
right?
fundraiser.
Wow.
Yeah. And the profits from that determine our budget for the next year.
Okay. And what kind of things do you do with your finances?
We give it all away.
That's great.
Lana can talk about some of the projects that we give money to.
Mostly just local organizations that are nonprofit, and we've given to, and we have scholarships as well for students that they apply for, and so we give out 4 or 5 scholarships each year, and
What are what ages is that? High school
that's
seniors?
high school seniors, yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
And what are the requirements or for the scholarships?
Well, I never went on that committee.
Okay.
So,
Well, if kids are interested, we have this similar thing with the Lions. We've had years where kids don't hear about it or don't know. They might not even sign up. Not that you guys might not have that problem,
No.
but if kids are interested or they're coming up, they're going to be senior next year. What should they look for to sign up?
Well, all our applications and the information is in the each school, in their guidance
great.
office. Plus, they're in the library. Plus, they are also, we put out publication in newspapers announcing it. Our requirement is that you have a Mokena address. That's the only requirement. There's an application and a letter, and the committee chooses the winners.
Any winners you can think of that you'd highlight or?
I didn't even think about that one. That's a good question. We had a former principal in Mokena, and I can't think of his name right now. He was a winner of our scholarship. We've had a mother and a daughter and a granddaughter win, which is 3
Wow.
generations.
Oh, that's cool.
And the original scholarship was awarded to one of the founding members, and that woman is now, wow, she must be close to 80. She came to our craft show 2 years ago and introduced herself. And she said, I was the winner of your first scholarship, named after her mom, who unfortunately had passed away.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
So, Lana, you're relatively new to the club, is that right?
Well, 2014, when I
Oh, okay.
retired from as director of Lincoln Way Special Rec, that kept me busy. So I said, as soon as I retire, I'm going to join the women's club, and that's what I did.
So, what drew you to the women's club?
Well, because they've also donated to Lincoln Way Special Rec, and that's what got me first interested in it. And then came to a couple meetings just to see what was going on, and to accept a check once too. And I thought this is a great organization, and so I joined. And so it's been 10 years. So
Wow.
yeah, I love it.
That's great.
Yeah.
And what brought you into the club?
My husband's family lived in Mokena. We moved here. I knew no one except them. And I was a teacher, and I wanted to do something in the community, but I also didn't want to join, no offense to anybody who's in a bunco club or anything. I wanted to join a group that made a difference. And after a couple of meetings, I learned so much because the programs are so good. Their speakers, presentations, tell you about their organizations, what's happening. So it's educational. I'd say our main focus is education of ourselves and helping other students through scholarship. We used to give 8th grade scholarship awards. We also, through the GFWC, send students in art and music and IT to state camps in the summertime. So it's more than just those scholarships to seniors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. And I know, and Lana, I'm sure you know, St. John's had the Women's Aid Society is something that Matt talked about a lot in the history of St. John's and coming up. And, it's interesting to hear because that group kind of, faded away after years, but that the Mokena Women's Club seems to kind of picked up where that was. But, women and the women's group, both St. John's, and yours have played significant. I love the story of what they did with, those group of women and how they came together as a community to really fund the St. John's building. We did a good article on it. But so I was happy to hear when you reached out to me because I kind of knew you guys were around and you'd see things, but I have not attended your fair, not the Bazaar,
Yes.
your craft
Holidays.
Holidays.
Holidays. I don't think we've said that name yet.
Yeah.
Holidays.
Yeah, end of October.
Right.
Okay, we'll make sure to share that. I'll put the flyer up on the video
Okay.
for it as well. What are your meetings like?
We meet the second Monday of each month, September through May. In June, July, and possibly August, we'll have field trips or something maybe for fun to do. We always meet at 6:30 for refreshments and greeting. Our program starts at 7, and we usually are done with that about 8 and then have a business meeting. And we met in the Mokena Library for years, but they have eliminated their community meeting room, so we scrambled and we're meeting in 2 different locations depending on the month. And one of them is Emmanuel Lutheran Church and the other is the Frankfort Township building.
Okay,
And those are both working out well for us.
great. And if people were interested in joining the Mokena Women's Club, what should they do?
Good question.
Well, they reach out to us, come to 3 meetings, and we
Right.
bring them in.
We're on the Mokena Village website with some contact information,
Okay.
phone number and our email address, and if they reach out, we'll get back to them. At our fair and every time we go out to have an informational booth, we always collect the names of people who are interested. It used to be a very difficult thing to become a member of the Mokena Women's Club because in the beginning they had membership tees and you wore hats and white gloves and you had to have 2 people sponsor you.
Wow.
And so many years ago, unfortunately, the club had a reputation of being snooty And we're not like that anymore. And I don't think they were then. It was a sign of the times, you know. And we, in the beginning when I joined, we had meetings in our homes, and you really, once we grew to the point that the average home couldn't accommodate, that's when we were very what's the word I'm looking for? We helped the library to realize they needed a community meeting room, and that's where we met for 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just recently found out they got rid of the community room.
Yeah, it's now called a program
Disappointed to
room.
hear that.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
need a community room in Mokena.
We
Yeah.
talked about that at our
Yeah.
board meeting. The village really needs a community meeting room that all groups are free to use without a fee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because if you're a nonprofit, you don't want to be spending your money to have a place to go to if you're giving back to the community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, what would you tell people, if somebody asked you why they should join the Mokena
Wow.
Women's Club?
We're
What do you
great.
tell them?
We're a great group of ladies. We're friendly. We're outgoing. We're kind. We're busy. We ask our members to, reach out and bring friends and neighbors. We have women from at least 5 different zip codes. You do not
Wow.
have to be a Mokena resident at all. Frankfort no longer has their women's club. We have Manhattan, Frankfort, Orland, Mokena, and
New Lenox.
New Lenox in our membership.
Who else is the leadership? You want to talk about who the leadership in the club is now? Any of the women that are helping run it?
Okay, Lana Graser is our president for the next 2 years. Amy Gusto is our first vice president. Tricia Roberts is our outgoing president and now serves as our second vice president. Kathy Voberl is secretary, and our 2 directors are Marie Ventura and Bev Whittier.
Great. It's always good to know who are the people that are stepping up. That's always a challenging thing, is to get good people
That's
that are
right.
willing to take the time to volunteer.
Something I'd like to mention is way back there was a book written called The Story of Mokena. Are you familiar with
I've
this?
heard, yeah.
Guess who wrote it?
Who?
The Mokena Women's Club.
Really?
Yes. And it's really kind of cool because there was a committee of women who gathered together the information, and Florence Pittman did the editing of it. She obtained a copyright, and Mrs. Pittman's family has given our club the copyright at this point in time.
Oh, wow.
It's been republished 2 different times with additional information, but I think it is, and there's 2 copies of it in the Library of Congress. We've given copies to the schools. We know some of the schools were using it for some history classes and so on, but I think it probably would be considered to be a pretty viable history of Mokena.
Matt has talked about that
Yes.
and references it frequently.
Right,
And all the history
Correct.
and Mrs. Pittman.
right.
So that is awesome. That I didn't realize
And-
it was the women's club.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. And how we met Matt, we were working at the cemetery, Pioneer Cemetery.
Sure.
We
Okay.
had a couple of ladies, especially one, Carmen Wendell Smallwood, who felt that it had been neglected way too long, and she asked the club if we would join in the restoration of the cemetery. And so for quite a few years, we maintained the cemetery, and Matt would go by and he'd ask us what we were doing, and he became our friend. And look at what Matt's accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. I'll find, looking through newspaper articles and stuff of Matt is like
Yeah.
a 12, 13-year-old
Yes,
kid, like
yes.
already doing stuff in town to,
Right.
with the
Yeah.
history.
And
Really
he was on
incredible.
the Mokena Youth Commission when I was on it, and at a young age, you just knew his love for history just
Yeah.
came right through, and you were hoping he'd continue, and he has.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So is the Mokena Women's Club making this available to anybody? Is it one of those books, or how can somebody? Is there still a copy in the
Yes,
library?
there are copies in the library. There
Okay.
should be copies in the library. And that's something that, it's no longer in print. It had an addition added onto it by another one of our members. The people who actually were on the history committee, Elizabeth Koppel, Lydia Cole, Mabel Welsh, Louise McGann, Frances Richards, Elizabeth Rumbly, and Jeanette Vredenberg, are the people who literally helped Mrs. Pittman make this. So I think it's fascinating.
It is.
Yes. But again, copies, I'm not sure. Good idea that we might think about having it printed again.
Please let me know if you do. I'd
Okay.
promote the heck out of it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I mean, I haven't read it yet either, but you know, from what Matt says, it's the book
Mm-hmm,
on Mokena history.
mm-hmm.
Great. Any other treasures you got hiding under there you want to show me? Okay, so I'll share the information about your holidays
Okay.
fair. But do you have that you want to share yourself?
October 26 and 27 at Lincoln Way East Field House. The show runs from 9 to 3 each of those 2 days.
Yeah, 26 and 27, you're right.
And the admission fee is $5, and that $5 is how we set it up so that that becomes our profit to then give back to the community.
That's great.
So all the money that is, earned at that show goes back to community projects, especially scholarship. And I think I'm pretty close in saying, I know we've given way over $100,000 in scholarship money
Wow.
in the last years that I've been in the club, for sure. And many of those people have told us that our scholarship made a difference in their lives.
That's great.
Might have been the only one they
That's great.
won, but it was enough to give them the push
Yeah.
that they wanted. And it came from local people.
Well, that's great. Sounds like a great group. I'm glad you guys could share some of the information and the history of it, and doing some great stuff in town. So hopefully we'll get over to check out your holidays craft or vendor fair this year.
Okay, not a vendor,
Craft fair. All
craft
right.
fair. Yeah.
Thank you for checking me on that. So great. This is great. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate taking some time to talk with me.